How about that drink?
Well, what'll it be?
What'll it be? What do I always have?
I don't know what you always have, mister. I really don't.
Try tequila. With the cube of sugar.
Hello and welcome to the Twilight Pwn, the internet's third most popular Twilight Zone podcast. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host Fred.
Hello.
How you doing this week, Fred?
I'm good, although I have to say I'm experiencing a bit of I guess Raiders remorse would be the term. I feel like giving Mute last week in 8- was just a moment of madness.
You know, I had some confusion, but you just sounded so darn confident.
Yeah, I just think I was like riding the high of like them saying Dusseldorf, you know. I like my German stuff, and that just gave it, you know, a solid additional 5 points off of the true market value of that episode. How you doing this week?
Doing all right. I guess it's been a big week for you, huh? In this soccer world.
Sure has.
Football.
Oh, you
world.
know about
someone?
Tell me what you know. I'm dying to hear your take.
I know that a bunch of people got arrested, and then the bad leader more or less got reelected, and then despite that, and then a couple days later he resigned. Anyway, I don't know. I don't care enough. I'm
Welcome
already
to
bored talking about it.
Yeah. We're just working up to fully transition from the Twilight Zone into our Champions League podcast. Didn't you have something related to Mute? You read the short story, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just a little follow-up from last week. So we, in keeping with the proud Twilight Pwn tradition, I got around to reading the short story after we've finished our discussion.
Yes,
so
right.
I would say it wasn't... I've read a number of Matheson novels and short stories. Wasn't one of my favorites. It often goes in the POV of the child who's a boy in the short story. And so it's trying to convey the idea of a person who has no spoken language and what their thought process would be like, and it gets kind of like Sound and Fury-ish or something. I don't know. It just not quite that severe, but it's just like it gets pretty literary in a way that he often or rarely seemed to in his writing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I actually started reading it too, and the first scene in the short story,
that's the best part.
Is the asking for directions scene
right.
in the episode, the one that we were convinced really didn't need to be there.
Now, granted, they jazzed it up for the show. They gave it a little more character, but it is kind of delightful that Matheson was like, we can't lose that. Yeah. Let's go.
I started reading it there, and I was like, okay, I got the idea.
There's a lot of great Matheson stories out there in novels. Yeah. I didn't love it, but it is pretty true. The story is pretty true to the finished product. So.
And tonight's episode is based around a pair of shoes. So, can't wait to hear you.
This is based on a pair of Charles Beaumont's shoes.
Yeah, exactly. So can't wait to hear what you think about that a month from now. Right. The Beaumont Airwalks. Right. What are we talking about this week?
We are talking about the episode Dead Man's Shoes, the third season episode, the 83rd of the production run. It aired originally on January 19th, 1962.
Nathan Edward Bledsoe of the Bowery Bledsoes. A man once, a specter now. One of those myriad modern-day ghosts that haunt the reeky nights of the city. In search of a flop, a handout, a glass of forgetfulness. Nate doesn't know it, but his search is about to end. Because those shiny new shoes are going to carry him right into the capital of the Twilight Zone.
Make up your mind, Rod. Where is the capital of the Twilight Zone? We've heard this before in another episode.
Well, maybe there was... Yeah, maybe in an earlier draft he walks those shoes all the way to the small town.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Ham Sandwiched-ville. What was it called?
I don't know. Pleasant
Woodbury
Ridge or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was like Sweet Valley Ranch.
Yeah, it was Sweet Valley High, the city.
Right.
I thought it was a pretty good Serling intro, though. I liked Glass of Forgetfulness. It was very much,
how I feel about this episode after I watched it.
Well, we'll get to that. We like to write our own Serling-style intros. I feel like I've been, thrown you under a bus recently, so I'll go first and get one out of the
Okay.
way. Greetings. Buddhism is a beautiful religion, and it's one I understand very clearly. A fact that will be proven tonight in tonight's tale as we tackle the touchy topic of reincarnation via wingtips. The gentleman who shall serve as Exhibit A is Nathan Bledsoe, a fashion-forward transient who needs only one thing to complete his bum chic look. A shiny pair of loafers that screams to the world, "I just robbed a dead body." However, when Bledsoe finally meets these magic moccasins, he finds himself getting more than he corpse-looted for, when he's caught up in an endless and beautiful cycle of gangsters trying to revenge kill other gangsters, failing, then trying again. Let the great wheel spin in the Twilight Zone.
I don't know. Even that plot summary still leaves me very cold. It's like, even with jokes, I'm still like, yeah, this plot just didn't hit it for me.
I was kind of getting bored about halfway through. All right, well, let's hear yours.
A wise man once said, "Time heals all wounds," and a clever podiatrist once countered, "Time wounds all heals." Tonight, these catchphrases will collide as cardboard cutout Nate Bledsoe consumes glass after glass of a sweetly sinister concoction that connotes calamity for crooks. Will Bledsoe beat the baddies? Will his tequila taste too tart? Tune in tonight. Same bat time, same bat the Twilight Zone.
Nice. I do like how you fixated on a glass of tequila with a lump of sugar. This episode's Don't Touch My Tool.
It's the only memorable thing. It's like, that's a pretty distinctive drink order.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about all I walked away from it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Did you come up with that thing about time wounds all heals? Because that was
Fred,
clever.
we do this show every week.
Yeah.
That would take a couple of weeks at least.
True. Yeah.
So I have to give all credit to www.jokesforus.com under, the head page shoe jokes. So
Is this how you do it every week?
that's how most of the material for this podcast comes from the shoe jokes page.
Got it. I listen back to all the episodes and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I never noticed all these loafer puns.
Yeah,
Huh.
exactly. So anyway, this is a third season episode.
And listeners,
Yeah.
just stay tuned for a little later, perhaps in general discussion. I got another shoe joke that I couldn't fit into my intro, but it was too good to let go. So.
Nice.
All right.
Teasing them.
Yeah, keep them interested.
Yeah. It's a third season episode. We are going to spoil it, so consider this your official spoiler warning. If you want to check it out before we get going, it's on Netflix, Hulu, probably YouTube, I didn't check, and also buy the DVDs and Blu-rays for sure. So we open up on a bunch of gangsters listening to gangster jazz music en route to dumping a body in an alley. Mm-hmm. And a homeless man is witness to the dumping. He doesn't seem too perturbed by it. Instead, he starts patting it down for cash. And then finally, he gets excited about the shoes on the dead man's body. How would you describe the shoes?
They're nice. They're not my style.
They're not your style.
I mean, there's the corpse aspect of them, sure, but
true.
just generally, I don't. What are those called? Like,
Are they wing
is it like
tips,
white
or?
with the, like mainly dark with kind of a lighter center? They're like
Clearly, we know a lot about shoes. They're
Yeah, I
mainly
mean, I only
dark.
know shoe humor. I don't know the
True.
technical stuff.
Yeah. To me, they look like wingtips, but like futuristic. They look like Tron wingtips or something.
Did they have like an antenna on them?
No, but just like, how in Tron, like all those like the.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see it. Yeah, they're actually kind of cool when I stop and really think about them.
Next time I see you, I'm fairly confident you're going to be wearing a pair of these shoes. They're noticeable shoes for sure. They don't look like normal, boring old shoes. Even in 1961 or even today, those would be notable shoes. So the homeless guy, who is Nathan Bledsoe, our protagonist, takes the shoes off of the dead body and tries them on himself. Very unhygienic if you're trying on new shoes. Especially,
from a dead person.
Exactly. I guess socks at that point become kind of... He's walking down the street and he bumps into some of his...
Hobo bros.
Hobo bros, yeah. What's the
Hobos.
What's the plural noun for hobos? Like
I think it must be like sushi. It's just the same. Hobos and hobo. Well,
no,
wait.
but like, like a murder of crows. Like
that. Yeah, I don't know. Like a rubbish of hobos.
That's good. Yep. Okay. Can't add to that. Let's move on. One of them is like kind of like, I don't know, Pudgy, the drunk hobo. And he kind of shakes down Bledsoe because he sees he's got these lovely new shoes, so he must have hit some kind of windfall.
Well, yeah, and bizarrely, one of the hobos is kind of like an out-of-work Shakespearean actor or something like that. So
the other one that comes up is weird, yeah.
Sammy, what has come over you? I see the whole thing is clearly a case of assault and battery.
Oh, what are you talking about? I just asked him where he was.
I would gladly testify for you in a court case.
Oh, forget it. He didn't mean nothing.
Spoken like a true gentleman. There, you see, aren't you ashamed of yourself to think that a man of such honor would refuse to share his windfall with his old comrades?
I don't know what you're talking
Now,
about.
Nathan, please don't destroy the image that I have created. It's quite obvious that you're on to something. We couldn't mistake your steadfast walk, your sense of well-being, and your new shoes.
As long as you're having fun with the whole hobo thing.
I couldn't help but think, like, are they trying to convey that person is mentally ill, and so he's like adopted this persona, or do we just not get any detail, like enough detail to understand what's going on there?
I don't think. I think they're just looking for color, basically.
I don't know. All I know is I heard that guy and I thought,
What?
Nice. Way to use the new clips.
yeah, he just eased it in there so subtly.
So Bledsoe shakes off his two hobo interlocutors, and did you feel like you sort of sense that he has a bit of a new personality here? Like he looks in a mirror and he kind of like tilts the brim of his hat and he looks a little cooler than his hobo self.
When he looked in the mirror,
warning.
I started getting a little nervous for him. I was just waiting for the reflection. I actually had to go back and rewind because I wasn't sure. I thought for a second the way he looked in the mirror that like the reflection, like his face had actually changed and he'd become the dead guy, and so I wasn't sure if like the hobo at the beginning was the same guy looking in the mirror. So it did seem like he'd become a different person. I just wasn't watching closely enough to see, like, wait, did they totally change actors? Or was he just changing his portrayal a little bit?
There's a certain quality to, like, early 60s, 38-year-old white guys.
Right.
Where they're kind of, like, swap and switch a little bit.
Yeah,
you know
totally.
What I mean? So, you
plugged in the actor from Salvador Ross into that, from, like, one scene to the next, I would not notice.
It would pretty much flash right by. He takes on a little bit of a different, like, tude, I would say. Is the best way to describe it. So the shoes seem to have a mind of their own, and they walk Bledsoe to a place called the Chateau Beechwood, sort of a ritzy hotel. And he's still in his bum regalia, but he slips in through the front door and goes up to a hallway. Earlier, by the way, when he patted down the dead body, he also sort of took the keys for no reason. But now we see why, because he knew the plot would happen. And so he needs access to this door. Did you notice how in the take that they used, he drops the keys on the ground and then picks them up?
No, I didn't.
It's a very small moment. But it's just like, why did you keep that take? Like, what does that say about the character? Like, it's just the actor, like, whoops, drop my keys. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Maybe they thought it gave it a little verisimilitude.
I guess, but
show about a dead person's shoes.
Yeah, just what this needs.
Just like, the real naturalism.
Yeah. So he gets in to this swank apartment, and he finds a lady who's playing solitaire, waiting for someone named Dane to get back. And when
I think maybe it's worth mentioning that I'm pretty sure we're already like 8 to 10 minutes into this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, he's found some shoes, but we haven't really talked about much plot, and so we kind of make notes as we're going along. And at this point, I just made the note like, the built-in cabinets look nice, because we were like 10 minutes in and I didn't have anything to say really yet. I was kind of like,
I don't think it's that bad, because you say that, but the episode did open up with gangsters dumping a dead body. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of we do have some action going on, If the episode wasn't called Dead Man's Shoes, it would certainly be weird. You know what I mean? Because you're like, why are we watching a homeless man desecrate a dead body? Because to focus on the shoes because of the title and because of the way they filmed it. But if not, it would just be like The Wire or something.
Right.
It just bubbles his day.
Yeah.
Anyway, the lady gets one look at the shoes and thinks that Dane, her, I guess, boyfriend, husband, companion, partner, maybe, is probably what they say to friends, has returned.
They.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
She thinks that Dane is back, but then she looks up and she sees the face of Bledsoe, the very hobo-y face of Bledsoe. And he kind of, at this point, seems to have made a total transformation. He seems to know who she is. Her name is Wilma. And he also seems to know his way around this swank apartment. And we get a very fourth season-y scene of him just kind of like puttering around the apartment. You know what I mean?
Right, I don't have any clips. It's like it was long, but it's weird. There's like, the dialogue is kind of packed. It's, there's no dialogue for a while, and then the Shakespearean hobo kind of starts ranting, and then no dialogue for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then we get like a line. It's
I think there's something kind of cool about the fact that they're not just coming out and saying what has happened. You know what I mean? Because like I think in another episode he would have been like, "It's me, baby, Dane. I'm back. These magical shoes still here. Let's hit the town." You know what I mean? Right. But like he just seems to like just be being this gangster without, and we don't have a new actor, so they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool, but it would have been cooler if they'd used that effect for more than just like him shaving. But that's what we get, a long scene of him shaving.
We should also mention that he's got some of the highest pants we have seen in a show.
I didn't notice that. Damn.
Oh, it's right around when he's shaving.
Yeah,
he's walking across his bedroom area, I think, and those pants they're itching his armpits. They're close. They're very close.
Yeah, just tighten the belt around the nipples. He's sort of like getting ready and changing into this gangster Dane's clothes, and as part of the routine, he takes off the shoes, the dead man's shoes. And then immediately he reverts back into Hobo Joe state of mind and seems to be really nervous. Like, what's he doing in his apartment? We get that. And at this point, Wilma busts in and pulls a gun on him. And he starts acting all nervous and trying to get out. Did you notice how, he's trying to talk his way out of the apartment and just get out of it without getting shot because he's back to, Nathan Bledsoe. And obviously the episode needs to have him put the shoes back on again. But did you find it weird that, like, Wilma was motioning with a gun, being like, "Just put on my husband's shoes and get out of here"? Did you find that weird? Like, if someone came into your house with your wife's bra on, would you be like, "Just put on that bra and get out of here"? You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not the best.
Now
example,
you've just confused me because now I'm thinking of other stuff. But
sorry.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but,
Maybe it's like the shoes have been tainted with his hobo feet. Maybe that's the idea.
Maybe they needed him to put the shoes back on. Yeah. So that was really the motivation for her to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So he puts the shoes back on, and immediately he reverts back into Dane mode. Right. That's the gangster.
How did you feel about this? Because part of me wants to say, oh, cool, the actor, he's playing two different personas, and we can see what he's doing, and it's good, but I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of wanted to give him credit, oh, cool, but I felt like I could see him trying to be two different people. I don't know. Maybe it's being a little too critical of the acting, but I got the idea, but I wasn't really, impressed by it or drawn in.
Well,
I didn't really buy the two different people. It's just okay, the actor is playing this is cool me and this is nervous me.
It's certainly not as compelling as Face Off. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I know what you're saying. I think it's a difficult task for an actor, especially because there's no line, so he has to kind of just do it mostly with his facial expression and his general way of being. I think he did a good job, and I also think that probably the amount of plots that required an actor to do this up until 1961 were fairly minimal, whereas now I feel like that's almost just every actor has that on his resume in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think it was good. I didn't think it was great. I feel
I kind of just walked away thinking it was fine. It wasn't terrible, but I just wasn't all that drawn in.
So
he's got the shoes back on.
It's funny because my note on the transformation thing is, I think the actor did okay with that, question mark.
Good. So we are on the same
I think
page.
we're on the same page. I think we're just coming at it from different angles.
It was just so obvious, I guess. It's like, I know you, as an actor, it's probably a fine line of you want to convey it, but you don't want to overdo it. And it wasn't like he did anything like campy or over the top. It just, I don't know. It was not subtle, but it also wasn't that distinct. So I don't.
I can just imagine you slow clapping in your living room.
Bravo. Yeah.
Anyway, so he gets the shoes back on, so he's back into Dane mode, and then he changes fully into the gangster's nice plaid suit. And
yeah, his suit, I thought it looked kind of like pajama flannel. Like,
maybe just a bit.
I don't know. The jacket was aggressive. You know,
Dane's ready for bed, sweetie.
I know gangster. Yeah, I know like the gangster pinstripe stereotype, but I've never seen like the flannel PJ coat.
Yeah, it was more like ska band than gangster.
Right. Yeah.
Ska band percussionist.
He was going to skank it up. Yeah, sure.
Anyway, he's asking Wilma to make him a drink. And she kind of like confused about what's going on, gets behind the bar and asks him what he wants. And he drops this episode's stunner of a catchphrase when he asks for...
It's a cookbook of dead man's shoes.
Yeah. You have a clip or...
Well, I played it in the intro. Tequila with a lump of sugar.
Yeah. I kind of like... And again, I do respect the script for not having her go, but that's Dane's drink. You know what I mean? Like, you just see on her face that she knows that that's the transformation.
Yeah, you know, like Ian Fleming from Bond saw this episode and was just kicking himself. It's like, what was I thinking with Martini?
Yeah.
Could have had it.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think of the drink? Like, is it sort of goofy or?
I could see it being an okay summer drink. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you know, down around these parts, there's lots of margaritas and mojitos get poured.
You mean America? Down around these parts?
Well, Tejas.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
There's margaritas everywhere. That's not like some regional local.
Well, I didn't think it's like no one... I mean, obviously you can go to a Chili's and get a margarita, but like...
And I do.
Margarita culture is, you know, strong. This one.
Margarita culture. It's a proud culture. Dating back to 1984.
Forget it, Fred. It's Rita Town.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because it's like the tequila with a lump of sugar. It's like kind of cool, but kind of weird. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
like,
distinct. I don't think it would be a tasty drink.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
just something about like a lump of sugar. It's just like
it makes it seem kind of like the kind of drink, you know, a horse would like.
Exactly.
But yeah, maybe that'll be something I can follow up on.
That's research you can do. The short story is going to take a while. It also made me think, like, I wonder what would happen if I got my dead body was thrown into an alley, someone put on my shoes. Like, what drink order would identify me to my girlfriend? I'll have a nice coffee, sweetie, with a little bit of almond milk. Doesn't have quite the ring.
Okay, so for me, it would be, could I get a cup of low-fat chocolate milk with some lactate and a cube of ice?
John, it's you.
I'm just nervous now if people are going to get access to like my bank accounts. That's very personal information I've just disclosed.
Understood. All right, well, let's move on before we get too deep. Next up, we get a nice sort of horrible scene where Bledsoe / Dane kind of like forces himself on Wilma and then slaps her around a little bit. Nice to see. Just rounds out the episode with a nice little bit of...
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe if they'd contrasted the hobo guy... Well, I guess they kind of tried. Maybe that's just what they were trying to do. In the hobo persona, he's so meek and sheepish and nervous, and then when he's the gangster, he's immediately like smacking people around.
Yeah. Anyway, well, it's great, and then we're off to
just luckily there was a woman there, so they could show off that character trait. You know,
how else could they have done it? No other way.
Right? No other way.
Yeah. So we're in a fancy club now, where the gangsters who killed Dane are chilling. And Bledsoe / Dane sidles up to the bar and really loudly orders this tequila drink. He just kind of makes eye contact with everyone in the bar. And he's like, I'd like a gin with a couple gummy bears in it. Anyway, so obviously the big boss gangster, a guy named Mr. Daggett, notices that because that was Dane's drink, and he just killed Dane, so that's weird. And he's also wearing Dane's shoes, so that's even weirder. So Daggett invites...
He's also wearing all of Dane's clothes.
True,
so,
very
but,
true.
you know,
Yeah, that's
whatever.
a good point. That plaid suit.
I mean, the
Pretty
blazer
recognizable.
is as noticeable as the shoes, in my opinion.
Dead man's blazer just didn't quite have the ring to it. Dead man's tie tack. Bledsoe tells Mr. Daggett that he has a message, and the message must be delivered in private. It's your test results. Anyway, they have a little bit of chit chat. And eventually Daggett agrees to give him a private audience, so they retreat to the private office he has at the restaurant.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Well,
did they change locations, or
no,
is he just got...
I think it's like...
Oh, okay, like
he
the
owns
restaurant
the
is
club.
like... Okay.
It was
Fair
a little
enough.
bit weird. Daggett's cronies pat down Bledsoe/Dane. They find a gun in his waistband. They take it, and then they leave the room to let the two gangsters catch up on old gangstery times.
How'd you get it clean so fast, Bernie?
What?
The rug. I understand blood's very hard to get out, isn't it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Bernie. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a guy who had a pretty nice thing going for him. Plenty of dough, plenty of action.
Drew Carey?
Only he wasn't happy. Because he had a partner. That meant he couldn't be number one. Being number one was very important to him. So he offered to buy the partner out. When the partner refused to sell, they killed him.
It's a good story.
And then a hobo came and took his shoes. And then two other hobos walked in, and it just kind of goes through the rest of the plot, get us up to speed.
And then a man stepped out and delivered an intro. There was a lot of alliteration in it. Anyway, that all culminates in what I thought was kind of a cool reveal, which is that, Dane and Bledsoe was patted down by the gangsters and they found one gun, but he had two guns. Did you think that? Maybe that's not cool. I don't know. I feel like it was kind of...
No, I mean, Die Hard kind of ruined it for the, the best two-gun secret gun
true.
thing. But, I
the
mean,
best two-gun secret gun.
I mean, most historians will agree on that point.
Yeah, exactly. But
I
it
don't know,
was
it's clever
fun.
enough.
It was a nice little touch. Anyway, so he pulls another gun and he's about to kill Mr. Daggett. But apparently Daggett's office is tricked out with not one, but like 5 secret bookcase pullouts where his henchmen are waiting with guns. It was sort of confusing to me. Like, they all just popped out at once and started shooting. I don't know. It's like a nice little bit of contracting.
I love the idea of an office that's like nothing but trap doors.
Anyway, so the long and the short of it is that Dane/Bledsoe is shot before he can put a bullet in Daggett. And as he's collapsing to the ground, he says, "I'll get you next time, Daggett."
I'll be back, Bernie.
Yeah.
And I'll keep coming back. Again and again. And I'll get you. So help me, I'll get you.
As long as you don't throw away my shoes.
Provided, please keep the shoes with the body. And please don't put me in water or anything like that. Just preferably right back where you left the body. That would be ideal.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Good night. Gotta go. So indeed that scenario does come to pass. They gangsters throw away
again in like the exact same spot.
Dead Body Alley is what it is.
The stereotype is dumping them in the river or something.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem... I don't know. It seems penny wise, pound foolish to just dump them in the street.
Well,
and
maybe
run.
it's like, going back to The Wire, maybe it's like they want to show to the other crews that they're killing hobos left and right. I don't know.
Yes.
And was the other guy's body still there? Because technically, like, his body was Dane's
No,
body.
I think it's like in a video game. Once you take the shoes off, the body just kind of evaporates.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
And he's in a regenerate spot, or what's it called, the spawning
Exactly.
spot, or whatever.
Yeah, he's
Spawn
respawned.
point? Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah, and then, lo and behold, the British hobo finds the dead body of his old friend and peels off the shoes, and the beautiful cycle begins anew. Why didn't they show us the episode starting from that point? It's like a really annoying British guy doing the whole thing. I'll get you.
Why didn't they just do a 3-episode series run of him constantly regenerating until he gets it right?
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of becomes like that Jake Gyllenhaal movie on the train. What was that? Source Code. Yeah.
Groundhog Day?
Right.
There's an old saying that goes, if the shoe fits, wear it. But be careful. If you happen to find a pair of size 9 black and gray loafers made to order in the old country, be very careful. You might walk right into the Twilight Zone.
Under general thoughts, I have one bullet point that I didn't finish writing down.
Okay. Hit me.
It's just that I already kind of said it, but I like how the episode really never comes out and says, I'm Dane, and the thing that's doing it is my shoes. You know what I mean?
Except for when he does come out and say it, when he lays out the entire plot to the gangster guy.
No, but he doesn't lay out the reincarnation aspect of it. He lays out, like,
I suppose.
He lays out the, like, gangster plot of it. And I also like how, none of them seem to realize that it's the shoes that are doing it. Like, the bum doesn't realize it, and the gangster doesn't realize it. You know what I mean? I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I suppose it's slightly understated. I mean, I guess...
Again, I don't know if, like, that you get so many points for it. I'm just saying it's interesting because I could easily imagine an episode that's, like, exactly this, but it's like, look at these crazy shoes! So I thought that was at least... showing a little more respect from the audience than...
the only thing I have under general discussion is another joke from...
Okay, let's hear it.
Jokesforus.com.
You teased it. Let's hear it.
This is for you, Fred.
All right.
How do Germans tie their shoes?
I have no idea.
With little Nazis.
That's not even really funny. I mean, it's hilarious. But it's like, what? So what is this website, Shoes for Us?
Or Jokes for Us on the shoes page. Just Google shoe jokes.
Okay. If there's one takeaway from this episode, it's just Google shoe jokes. All right.
That's what Rod wanted us to get from this episode. I don't know. This plot has been done before. Usually with murderers, you usually get a plot where you got like, the murderers... wasn't there one like shocker or something where the murderer... was put on death row, and then they took his eyeballs and implanted it in someone else, and then they were having like visions of murder, or like the murderer's hand somehow gets transplanted on another person, and then they've got a killer hand. And so this is, I don't know, the idea of like a person's consciousness continuing on, usually through a body part, but through a possession, sure, same difference. So I don't know, that made it feel... And granted, this came out in the 60s, so it was probably before some of the things I'm thinking of. But it still just feels
has a
like
ghost story
worn.
feeling. Yeah, like the killer's knife was. Yeah,
it just feels like more tropey than original to me. I guess it is interesting that the seeming protagonist doesn't actually like accomplish his goal. I mean, we kind of get I guess like a shadow play style loop seemingly being born out of this, that he's just going to keep coming until he works it out right. And I guess it kind of wonder, like, is he going to keep accruing the memories of like every body he takes over? Like next time, is he going to be sitting down in the office like, and then you killed the hobo guy?
It just like really starts to stack up. Like that part of the episode.
It's going to be. It's going to be.
And then you killed the British guy. And then you killed.
It's going to be increasingly more difficult to get him alone in that office, probably, or maybe not, since if he keeps forgetting about the multiple trapdoors.
It's true. That's a good point. Yeah, it's also like, do the shoes also accrue? Yeah, well, do they accrue the consciousness of the hobo? Does it become like dead hobos?
Yeah, does dead hobo have to like avenge himself on top of that?
Those shoes are carrying like a lot of consciousness in them. Yeah. Well,
I don't know, if you had a item of clothing that would, avenge you after your death, what do you think it would be? Is there any item you're particularly fond of?
Let's see, is there any item you're particularly fond of?
Well, no, like item of clothing. Like, do you have a cardigan that you think would really,
smother
finish the job for you?
I'm actually wearing a cardigan right now, sadly.
I thought it was a good bet.
Yeah. I've got a pair of sweatpants on. I don't know, they look pretty murderous. How about you?
I don't know. I definitely have a few sweaters that I feel like,
you can entrust.
I think they would carry on my legacy.
You know what's funny? Okay, here's the item of clothing that would carry on your legacy is that shirt that you had in college. Okay, this
probably
is
still up in my closet.
Forgive the indulgence, but you have like a striped shirt. It's like green and blue, and it's like horizontal stripes, and that was just very much like a shirt that you wore all the time in college. And then when you mean
the one that I wore 2 days ago?
Yeah, okay. And then when you made your movie, and there's a main character in your movie who's loosely based on you, and that character wears that shirt. So when I watch the movie, I'm just like, oh, it's John. So that shirt is going to be the one to do it.
I like that shirt, but I don't know if I trust that shirt in the clutch.
What we doing next?
Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Yeah. Scott, Zachary, Mark Grams Jr., Zachary and Grams, and IMDb.
The episode was remade in the 1985 Twilight Zone series as Dead Woman Shoes. No idea what they did with that, but and then in 2002 Twilight Zone series, which we hardly ever mention here, as Dead Man's Eyes.
There you go.
So yeah, this makes it the only original episode to be remade in both revival series. Kind of interesting.
I did really briefly watch the 80s Twilight Zone remake of this. It's got Helen Mirren in it, actually, weirdly.
Really?
Yeah, it's very odd. And
was she still kind of in her Foxy period, or was she kind of
that period
in
is never ended,
time?
My friend.
Well,
but I do. I don't know. It was like really grainy video, and it was on YouTube, so it was kind of like hard. I wouldn't have known it was Helen Mirren had I not seen that in the synopsis. It's it's like the plot of this, but instead it's like a rich woman who was murdered by her husband, and her like high heels end up at a thrift store, and Helen Mirren is very like meek, mild-mannered thrift store employee, puts them on and turns into a haughty lady. It's okay. I only got halfway through it. Great analysis from the Twilight Pwn. I don't know.
Cool. All right, Nate Bledsoe is possessed by Dane's spirit when he puts on his shoes. The spell is broken when Bledsoe removes his shoes in the apartment and reestablished when he puts them back on, as we discussed. However, later, Bledsoe changes into clean clothes, including socks, which he wasn't wearing before, and the dead man's hold on him wasn't broken again.
Well, we skipped over that scene. You don't see him actually changing his socks and be like, I'm the bum. Wait a minute, no, I'm the gangster again. So maybe he just had that moment,
Do you think the shoes need, I guess that said, they don't need skin-on-skin contact for the symbiote to bond
exactly. They can go through the sock, as long as it's like a cotton blend. If it's polyester, they can't get through.
Yes. And this is, I guess, another IMDb claims mistake. When Nate first encounters the body in the alley and takes the corpse pulse, the dead victim's fingers move. Didn't notice that, but...
Not surprised.
And then from Mark Scott Zichry's Twilight Zone companion, a little bit of trivia. I think this was from Buck Houghton, said that originally the haunted item was to be a cowboy hat, but they rewrote the script.
Wisely.
I'm not certain if he was still supposed to be a gangster, like just the urban cowboy craze gangster.
Yeah, God, that's bizarre. Originally it was a monocle.
But
originally it was a pink feather boa.
But there's a very funny quote. I'm pretty sure this is from Buck.
Yeah.
This is the quote. Seems to me that shoes would take you places you weren't intending to go, whereas a hat wouldn't. Which,
sure, why not?
Yeah, okay,
fair enough.
And then written by Charles Beaumont. Beaumont was credited for it, but this was during his period of being overworked and probably in ill health, and so it was actually kind of ghost written by a writer named O.C. Rich, I believe is how it's pronounced. Yeah. So What about yourself?
Yeah, I think
Brent?
that was actually before his health started deteriorating. I think it was just
maybe.
Yeah. I have a different Twilight Zone trivia book by Martin Grams Jr. He's got some interesting stuff. One thing I like is, this was originally submitted as a plot synopsis, and it went through a variety of titles, all of which seem insane to me. Here are the ones it gives: Venus in the Garage, Down to Earth, and The Reluctant Genius. Like, none of those have anything to do with the final episode, nor do they have anything to do with each other.
And none of them suggest a cowboy hat.
True. Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
It isn't explained exactly what those episodes are, so it just shows that all great works change in revision.
Sure. What were the titles again?
The Reluctant Genius, Down to Earth, and Venus in the Garage.
Now, Venus in the Garage was also the original title for Gatsby. I remember that.
Right. So Grams includes some tidbits from Warren Stevens, the guy who played Nate Bledsoe in it. And he's recounting his experience working with Montgomery Pittman, the director. Okay, so here's Bledsoe. Pittman said, "Listen, I don't know how you should play this. You're on your own." So, I don't know. Maybe there's something to, like, his, he gave a good performance, but the director, like...
I mean, that has, like, a very George Lucas vibe, but it's not like Pittman was occupied with, lots of technical stuff.
I know. It's also
like,
weird, too, because it seems obvious what he should do. Like, just have a different persona for each character, but they're kind of like, I don't know. You're on your own, buddy. He also says... I met Rod Serling, not on that show, but I met him before. He smoked far too much, but otherwise he was a very personable guy. I like that. And then finally, interesting fact, the shoes in the original script calls for size 9 black and white brogans with perforated uppers and silver buckles. I'm envisioning like a pilgrim shoe when I hear that, but I don't. Maybe they took some creative liberties on that. I don't know. But that's it for Grams. What about bios?
Warren Stevens played Nate Bledsoe, as you said. He also appeared in an episode for the 80s Twilight Zone series, and he was also a prop from Forbidden Planet.
Oh, nice.
So
good.
That's exciting. Joan Marshall played Wilma. Got some interesting little trivia about her. She married film director Hal Ashby, and over the... great director, kind of a sadly cut short career, probably best known for like Being Human, Shampoo, and Harold and Maude. He did others, Coming Home. Yeah, it's good stuff. Over the first 6 months of their marriage, and at his insistence, she related personal experiences of her life. Ashby and Robert Towne, the writer of Chinatown and a bunch of other movies, turned Joan's life into the film Shampoo. She was the Warren Beatty film. She was not pleased that her husband had used such personal details in creating the film. And apparently, bits of her real-life wedding to Ashby can be seen in the opening scenes behind the credits in Ashby's 1970 film, The Landlord.
Which that's kind of random.
Not a bad movie either.
Weird and fun.
Ben Wright played Chips. He was also in the Twilight Zone episodes Death's Head Revisited and Judgment Night.
British bum would be my assumption.
That'd be a safe bet,
Chips,
I suspect.
Rings of English hobo.
It has a hobo feel to it, yeah. Quote-unquote written by Beaumont, as we've kind of discussed. Directed by Pittman. He's directed 5 episodes total. This was one of the 2 episodes that he didn't write. He was kind of unique in that he was a writer-director. Yeah. The only episode of his that we haven't covered yet is 2, so eventually we'll close out the Pittman oof. But I wonder to what extent the fact that he didn't write this episode left him feeling like disconnected from the material and
unable to suggest a very basic set of directions to an actor.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I can kind of just picture him being like, I didn't write it. Go to hell.
Cool. I don't know. It's weird to me because it's like, it suggests like an unfamiliarity with like the basic idea of the episode to not give the actor directions. It's like...
And if you had a director who was like, just, a hired gun coming in who had never done a Twilight Zone episode, never been in sci-fi or fantasy, I could see, that person being kind of confused and I don't know. But this is a guy who'd worked on the show both as a writer and director. Do you remember seems like he'd get it.
Do you remember that British guy who was like, when I first read the script, I didn't understand how, there could be something that wouldn't happen in reality in the work of fiction. It kind of speaks to that, I don't understand. What are these shoes? I don't get it.
Exactly.
I guess if it doesn't involve a haint, Montgomery Pittman just doesn't know what to do.
And that brings us to the...
Inevitable.
Been a while since we heard that sweet, sweet jingle.
I know.
We like to find connections between Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the Twilight Zone in the form of actors, directors, or set designers who worked on both shows. John, what do we got this week?
It's good to be back. Richard Devon played Daggett, the head gangster.
Oh, he seems kind of familiar.
I think you'll remember this when I get to it. He was in 2, so he was in the 3rd season episode, Viking Women and the Sea Serpent.
Okay,
But he played a much more familiar role for you, I think. He was in the 8th season episode, The Undead. Can you figure out who he played?
Okay, is The Undead the one where the woman goes back to Shakespearean times? Like via psychic?
Well, now I'm getting confused. He played Satan in The Undead.
Oh,
Isn't he like...
Yes,
Isn't
that's
he
the one.
like
Yes, he's the very weird it is I. Like he's very weird. He's like a what does he say? Like, behold my subtle charms. And Crow's like, this is subtle?
A different role. He had it shows you his range.
Yeah, exactly.
He could do play cool head of the gangsters and
crazy Satan, Prince of Cabaret, as they refer to him. That's really funny. Okay, sorry. Go on.
IMDb gives this episode a 7.7.
Smack dab in the middle. I feel like it's a little bit better than a 5, which is kind of where I think you're coming down. Am I right?
Correct. I think this is kind of just
what 5s were made for.
Basically, there's nothing particularly wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's competently acted. It's competently directed. I don't think it's maybe as stylish as you do. I just think they have good score, which they've used in other episodes.
Yeah, fair. I don't think it's actually that stylishly made. I just think that I think mainly I just like that they respected the audience not to hit you over the head with the premise, and convey it through the way that people act and react to each other, which I thought was mildly cool enough to give it a 6.
Again, it's not terrible, but I was forgetting the beginning before it ended, and
that's not a good
fading from the memory banks very fast. So
cool.
5.
All right, cool, good stuff. Well, that wraps it up for Dead Man Shoes. Thank you to
Sean J. Lee on Twitter for requesting that episode.
Thank you, Sean J. Lee. We're kind of discombobulated because John is moving to the Austin of the Rust Belt, so we're going to have to let you know via Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and something else what our next week's episode is going to be. But stay tuned and request an episode if you like. There's lots of ways to do it. John, what are they?
You could send us an email at twilightpwn, pwn@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at twilightpwn. You can check out our website, twilightpwn.tumblr.com, where we put up pictures and things we find or create related to the episodes we discuss. And you could listen to us on Stitcher or TuneIn Radio or other internet podcast-related things, or you could subscribe to us in iTunes. If you're over there, if you'd leave us a review, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who's written reviews recently. We're over 100, which fills us with glee.
Totes.
Not a question, but a statement. Today, rather coincidentally, I bought a new pair of soccer cleats, and I went to play in a pickup game, and I think I was definitely...
Bought them or took them from someone's corpse, Fred? Let's be real.
Tomato. I acquired them. And I was playing a lot better, so maybe there's something to this episode.
Right? Yeah, I think that's the takeaway.
Cool. All right, well, I'll talk to you next week, John.
All right, later, Fred.
Lates.
Bye.